Hello, everybody. Shavua Tov. Tonight and this weekend, I am technically taking off, but I like you all so much that I decided that we should still learn some Hasidut tonight. So I'm going to offer just a short teaching tonight on one verse from this week's Torah portion. You may know the song Vishamru, Vishamru, V'nei Yisrael, et Shabbat. That verse comes from this week's Torah portion, Shavua Tov Bruno. And the Kedushat Levi is going to ask about this verse. So before we jump into it, let's review the Torah verse itself. If you want to look it up yourself, it's Exodus chapter 31, verse 16. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat l'dorotam berit olam. And the children of Israel shall guard the Shabbat, to do the Shabbat for their generations as a eternal covenant. So the Kedushat Levi is going to ask two questions. Shavua Tov, Elaine and Steve, my mom joining us in Florida. Shavua Tov Yochev, joining us in Brazil. The Kedushat Levi is going to ask two questions about this verse. One, what do you mean, Vishamru et ha-Shabbat? What do you mean, keep the Shabbat? That's what ha-Shabbat means, the Shabbat. You should keep the Shabbat. What does that even mean? And then he's going to say, he's going to ask the question, why is it mentioned two times? The word Shabbat is mentioned twice in this verse. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam berit olam. So these are the two questions he's going to ask. Let's jump into it. He says, Bo Yavo Ar Hagamar. It says in the Talmud, Ilmalei Shamar Yisrael Shtei Shabbatot. He says in the Talmud, there's a statement that says, if it were the case that Israel would keep two Shabbats. Okay, so Kihine Kishe Adam Shomer Shabbat Karaui V'Nachon. He says when a person keeps Shabbat in its proper way, Az Mizeh HaShabbat Yesh Lo Chiyut Vashafa al kol hashavua bichdei lavod et Hashem kol hashavua. When one keeps Shabbat in its proper way, he says one has the vitality and an overflow of energy for the whole rest of the week in order to serve God for the entire rest of the week. Shalom, Jeff. Glad you're here with us. So let's just internalize that idea. And maybe you've experienced this before. When you keep Shabbat, if you keep it like really wholeheartedly for one, from sundown Friday night to sundown Saturday night, he says right here that you have a feeling of vitality and just the wherewithal to be able to have a week where you are, serving God, whatever that looks like. But you're connected in a deeper way for the whole rest of the week because of that Shabbat. Ukeshe Adam oved et Hashem kol hashavua. And when somebody serves God for the entire week, and by the way, serves God doesn't just mean praying. It means like having an awareness of Hashem, of God, in every moment of one's life, when you're talking with a friend, when you're on the phone, when you're doing dishes, not just when you're praying, but, always kind of asking yourself, like, what does this moment teach me about God? How can I relate to God here and now? So that when he says serves God, I don't want us to think that it's just through mitzvot and just through prayers. And he says, first he said, when one keeps Shabbat, then one has, an overflow of spirit, if you will, to be able to serve God the rest of the week. And then he says, and when one serves God during the week, az b'Shabbat haba'a kal biyado lishmor karaui. When one serves God during the week, then the upcoming Shabbat is easy to keep. Shabbat can be very difficult, but he says if you feel that connection and you strive for that connection, you work at it all week, then the upcoming Shabbat is easy to keep. And he says that this is how it works, essentially, is what he says. And he says, with this knowledge now, I can answer this question that comes up in the Talmud, because in another place in the Talmud, based on this verse, it says, Ilu Shamru Yisrael Shabbat Echad, if Israel keeps one Shabbat, how can it be that in one part of the Talmud it says, regarding this verse, it's about two Shabbats, and in another place of the Talmud it says it's about one Shabbat? He says, now that we've explained this to you, the answer is clear. Ilu Shamru Yisrael Shabbat Echad, if Israel keeps one Shabbat, Vekan Amar Shnei Shabbatot, and here it says two Shabbatos. That's the problem. He says Ki ha'ikar hu Shabbat echad. The essence is really one Shabbat. Ukeshesh shomer Shabbat echad, and when one keeps one Shabbat, as oved et Hashem belev tahor kol hashavua, then you serve God, relate to God with a pure heart the whole rest of the week. Umechamat zeh kal lo lishmor Shabbat sheni karaui, and because of that, it becomes easy to keep a second Shabbat in its proper way. Because remember, he said if you keep Shabbat wholeheartedly, then it's easy for you to remain connected for the whole rest of the week. And if you serve God for a whole week, then the upcoming Shabbat becomes easy to keep. So it all rests on one Shabbat. V'nimtza ha'ikar hu Shabbat echad. And he says again, the essence is one Shabbat. Ki al yedei zeh Shabbat echad. By this one Shabbat, yishmor Shabbat sheni bakal. The second one becomes easy to keep. V'zeu haremez b'pasuk. And this is the hint in our verse. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael. The children of Israel shall keep sheyishmeru Shabbat echad. They should keep one Shabbat. La'asot et ha-Shabbat. And then the second time Shabbat is mentioned. La'asot et ha-Shabbat. To do Shabbat. This Shabbat sheni. This is in reference to the second Shabbat. Sheshmirat Shabbat sheni yavo lo bekal. Because the second Shabbat will come as a very easy to keep. V'zehu v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat. And so now he's answered the question. Why does the verse say you should keep ha-Shabbat, the Shabbat? And then why does it say Shabbat twice? His answer is because keeping one Shabbat is the essence to keeping multiple Shabbats. If you keep one, then you create a deep connection with God, just that one Shabbat, and then it overflows to the week. And then during the week, because you have maintained that connection, the next Shabbat becomes easier to keep. This, in Pirkei Avot, there's a Mishnah that says, mitzvah goreret mitzvah. A mitzvah causes another mitzvah. And here we see, a few reasons why that might be. When you do a mitzvah, you feel that connection to God. And then you want more of it. And so not only do you want it, but it becomes easier. Now you're making it into a habit for yourself. And the big takeaway here is that one makes a huge difference. For the Kedushat Levi, on this verse, it's about one Shabbat. Keeping one Shabbat can change your whole upcoming week, and your week being changed then influences your next Shabbat, and it's this ongoing cycle, all starting with one Shabbat. And I want to expand that to any other mitzvah. Just doing it once has the power to set you on a path toward a deeper connection and to more mitzvot in the future. Just one. That's what it takes. With that, everybody, I think I mentioned earlier that I'm actually off this weekend. So, because I like all of you so much, we learned a little bit of Hasidut tonight, but I'll keep it kind of short just for this evening. I will invite anybody if they have questions, comments, concerns to write it in the chat. And I pray that you did have one meaningful Shabbat earlier today, and that this upcoming week you approach it with the mindset of connecting with God, connecting with that spirit, connecting with however you imagine that, because that connection will then make the next Shabbat even more meaningful. Thank you, Jeff. Yochel, I'm going to translate your comments. You say, Emet, truth, keeping Shabbat strengthens us for the week, and always to keep is to strengthen our journey of faith. Yeah, I love that, journey of faith. That's exactly what we're on together. Yochevin, you definitely strengthen mine. Okay, let me see what else you say. You say Shabbat's part of our life. It is so normal and a great blessing to have Shabbat. It's a blessing that it's normal. For a lot of people, it's not normal. It really takes work to keep one Shabbat. It takes a lot of work. And I think that's something not to be lost here, that it can be very hard to keep Shabbat. And he's saying, you really have to prepare. On Friday, you have to prepare your food. You have to make sure that you're all set for the next 25 hours. And it's not easy, but he's saying just doing it one time can make a huge difference. All right, everybody. With that, Shavua Tov. I wish you a great week ahead, a week of meaningful connections. Zachor v'shamor. Yes. Yes, that's keeping Shabbat, remembering Shabbat. Thank you for that addition. Not sure exactly where you're going with that, but important to remember. And then Yochel, you say that for the people who find it difficult to be strengthened, to make Shabbat a delight. Yeah, the more you keep it, the more you find meaning in Shabbat. It can be very hard, but then the more you do it, you can think about this like keeping Shabbat, but also like a constant prayer practice, kind of like going to the gym. It can be very, very hard the first time, the second time, the third time. But then when you get into it, you find that it strengthens you and you start to really enjoy it. And you get into a rhythm. And then it's easier to go. And then you find that you're building the muscles in order to get even more out of your time working out, so to speak. All right, everybody. Shavua Tov. Looking forward to learning with you all next week.